I'm Julia Tiedemann and welcome to Easy Piecy Quilts channel. Today we are going to be making a great Christmas gift. This is golf head covers pattern 123. And there are 3 sizes of head covers in this pattern. I have made these head covers many times and I designed them to fit over the head of a driver, a 3-wood, and then there's also 5-wood or hybrid clubs, fairway woods. There's a size for each and every one of these. So the nice thing about these club covers is that they have elastic on the bottom. So they fit snugly on the club, but it's very easy to take them off and it's easy to put them back on. But they will stay in place and won't fall off when you're riding in the cart, things like that. And even if you do lose a head cover, you know how to make them. So that happens a lot in our family. We have 3 daughters that golf and we're always coming up a head cover short. So these come in handy. And the great thing about these head covers too is you can design them any way you would like. So my youngest daughter wanted rainbows. Now this number is a little bit different on this one, but she got a rainbow kind of boho pattern. And this is my husband's, which we're gonna make, which is just golf fabric. And also we are from Missouri, so the Cardinals are rule supreme for baseball. So here is a head cover for that, and the lining matches the numbers typically is how I make them. And then my middle daughter wanted floral, so here's her head covers. So we have all sorts of different varieties, and the sky is the limit. If you can find the fabric, you can make a head cover with it. And so it's a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy this project with me to make some golf head covers. Here's our pattern. The pattern comes with all the templates you need to make 3 head covers. You will get a head cover for a hybrid, a 3-wood, and a driver. And you will also get numbers for each of the corresponding covers. So 1 obviously is your driver, 3-wood, and then you have 4 and 5 hybrids or a fairway wood. And these numbers are mirror images, and I will show you why when we get to that part of the pattern. But it will also tell you how much fabric you need for a set. Each set of head covers you should be able to make with 1/2 yard of the outer fabric and 1/2 yard of the lining fabric. So fat quarters are nice for this project, especially if you're only going to do a driver head cover or 1 head cover. And then you're also going to need 1/2 inch wide elastic, and you will need some heat and bond for our applique. So this is the fabric that I have picked out. This is a great project for scrap fabric. If you have just a little bit of fabric or fabric that you've cut off by trimming a quilt top, the backing of a quilt top or something like that, it's easy because it's just a little piece. And then I always use my batting scraps that I've cut off of my quilt projects for this as well. So that makes that nice. And then here is my fabric for the lining or the inside of the head cover. And this will be the outside of our head cover. And then I've chosen the lining fabric for the number as well that'll go on the driver. We're going to just make the driver, and essentially all the rest of the head covers are exactly the same process. So the first thing we're going to do to start out is I've cut a fat quarter of fabric, which is all we're going to need for the driver. And I've taken a piece of batting that's about the same size that I cut off a quilt, and we're going to quilt this. So you do not need to put another layer of fabric on the back because we're going to have a lining inside these covers. So you're never going to see that part. But what I usually do when I quilt is I will take a ruler, and you can practice your free motion quilting if you want. You can do anything you want on this, lines or doodles, or go around the balls and the bags, whatever you want to do. But I usually, since this is, I think of golf kind of, I think of diamonds for my quilting. So I've got this heat erase pen. So what I do is I'll just go across the top of the fabric, and then I usually find you can do 45-degree angles, which will be more squares, or you can find your 60-degree line, which this ruler does not have. Let me see if one of my other ones here has a 60-degree. So you can find your 60-degree line and do that. And you can mark the whole top, or what I do is I put a guide on my sewing foot when I'm going through. So the only thing I have to do is mark the first 2 lines, and then as I'm going, I just line the guide up with this, and I sew a parallel line, parallel line, parallel lines all the way down this way. And then I'll sew this line, and then I'll use my guide to sew parallel lines all the way down the other way. And then we'll have a crosshatch pattern all over the top of this fabric. And then we can go ahead and I will show you how to cut out the driver head cover. I'll go ahead and cut this template out too as well, and then we'll cut that out as soon as I get this quilted. I just wanted to show you that you can quilt this on a regular sewing machine, which is what I do for all small projects. I just, have my piece of batting underneath, and here was our original line. I don't know if you can see probably can't see the pin, but that pin will disappear with the hot iron when I press it. But you just sew down the original mark, and then I have a guide that I can put on my sewing machine, and I'm sure you can find those anywhere at any sewing machine shop. It's just attaches to the back of the presser foot. And then I just place the quilting line underneath that guide, and I just go down and make my next line. So I will continue going all the way across the top of this with parallel lines, and then you can see where the other 60-degree line is running here. So all we'll do is turn our fabric, and then I will sew along that line, following it all the way up, and then again, same thing, use my guide to make parallel lines all the way across, and then when we're done, we'll have a diamond pattern in our quilting. We've got our pretty quilting done, and the driver head cover is cut out. So we are going to, and I just use my rotary blade and go ahead and cut around. Outside of the template, and we'll need two of the head covers cut out of the outer fabric. It does not have to be perfect. We're going to be sewing these, but that's pretty good. And then we're going to cut another one out of that as well. You want your blade to be nice and sharp for this because you are cutting through kind of thick layers for this portion. Sometimes it helps to kind of go back and forth a little bit, like that. Okay, so we've got 2 of these. And now we're going to need 2 of the lining fabric pieces as well. So for the lining fabric, since it's thinner, it's not as thick with that batting, you can probably cut 2 at a time. We have 2 lining pieces, 2 of the outer fabric pieces, and then the other thing we're going to do is I have part of the lining fabric, the back part, I've fused heat and bond to it, which is a glue on one side, which will fuse to the fabric, and then the paper on the other side. And this is why the numbers are mirror image, because we are going to trace this number on the back of the heat and bond paper. The heat and bond paper gets thrown away, so you're never going to see that part. And it makes it so much easier than having to try and pin a number and then try and cut out around that small piece. So it makes it a lot easier to just go ahead and cut this applique number out. And just some small, very sharp scissors are your friend. Peel this off the back. Here's your number. And then on one piece, you're going to put the number and come down a little bit more than what you think you should, just because you're going to see pretty much this whole back side on the cover. But remember, you're going to have seams here, so it's going to be curled under around the driver head. So I would say that would be a good position right there. And then that glue, we're going to just press that on there, and it'll stay stuck down while we sew that applique down, and it'll make it really, really easy. So that's this outer piece. The other outer piece, you'll notice on your template, each template has an area where it says elastic line. We're going to put elastic on the bottom part of this head cover so that when you put it on the head cover, it will cinch down around that head of the golf club and it will not fall off. It comes off very easily. It'll come on and off very easily, but you want it to have a little bit of snug fit around that club. So in each pattern, it will tell you on each size of head cover how big to make the elastic. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take this elastic, and what I do is I sew this down inside the seam where you're not ever going to see it. I just do a straight stitch a couple times up and down there. And then I pull it across to the other side, And I do the same thing over on the other side. I sew it before you do anything with the sewing across. I just take it and sew a couple times across the end of that to hold the elastic down. And then as I'm sewing it through my machine, I'll put it through my machine this way, and those ends will be in place, and I will zigzag stitch all the way across this through my machine while I'm stretching the elastic across. So as I stretch that and hold it going through the sewing machine with a zigzag stitch all the way across, once that is complete, your driver head will have that little cinched elastic, and I'll go ahead and sew that, and that way that'll be done, and then we can move on to the next step. I fused the number onto the top of the head cover, and I stitched around the outside of the number to hold it on with washings. These head covers are washable, which makes them really nice, so that won't fray with that heat and bond on the back of it and then stitch down. We've got the elastic sewn in with a zigzag stitch, and so that will allow for underneath that head cover for it to grip the club head. And we are going to sew these right sides together, and you can pin this, but with the way this is so wonky with this elastic, I think it's just easier to use clips. So I just clip around the outside of it, kind of the main points, and then I fill in the rest. And then I will sew around the outside of this and leaving the bottom open. We'll have to leave the bottom open so that we can sew the lining inside the head cover, which makes these really nice. So we'll sew all the way around here, and we'll back stitch at the beginning and the end. And I've also sewn the lining fabric, so I put these two pieces right sides together, and I sewed around the outside, but on this section where I left a small opening, because this is how we're going to flip the head cover right side out. On this outer part, no, just go all the way around, but leave this open. And you can see that I left this open as well. So let's go stitch around this, and then I will show you what we do after that. We've got our two outer portions of the head cover sewn together, and at this point I like to go ahead and clip to the seam line just around the curve, because that is going to make sure that this does not pucker or make it difficult to turn. I usually go about every inch or so right up to the seam line, not through, with a sharp pair of scissors. And I did sew this pretty close to the edge, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but again, it does help. And then we've got our elastic piece down here and our number piece up here. So we are going to flip this and make it right side out. And I go ahead and check all the seams just to make sure that there isn't a piece of batting that's sticking out, or a little piece of fabric or a hole that didn't quite get sewn shut. And it looks like we did okay on this. So at this point, we are going to take the outer part of the head cover, and we are going to put it up inside the lining. And you'll notice that we are sewing right sides together. Right side is with right side. And we're going to line up our seams, our side seams. And again, I use clips for this. So we'll line up that one, and we'll line up this one. And then I clip around, put a couple more clips around the outside here. And we are going to sew this seam. All right, we've got our seam all the way around the bottom here. And we are going to pull the top through the little hole. And this is kind of the exciting part because you get to see how things are going to look. And this, so at this point, you'll just tuck, and I do with my, tuck that and just press it, and that will put those raw edges on the inside, and I just take my sewing machine and sew very, very close to the edge there to close that hole. And then once you close your hole on the inside lining, you put that lining up inside your golf head cover. And I take the iron again and I press that seam down here open and flat, just like that. And then I top stitch along the outside of that opening. That way the liner will not come out and it won't flip or anything like that. And then you have your golf head cover. You're done. And I think these turn out, they really look nice. And once you have a set on your golf clubs, these are so versatile, and you can pick any fabric. I mean, a team, any kind of other sport. You like baseball, you like football, you like gardening, a floral set would be beautiful. So that is golf head covers, and I hope you enjoy this project.